So for this video, we're going to look at one of the basic functions of Mastery Connect, and that is how to create a Mastery tracker inside Mastery Connect. So first things first, we're going to have to log back into Mastery Connect. So in the upper right hand corner, click Login. Once again, we're going to log in using our Google account, which will be our beaver.k12.ute.us account. Now, once you're here to this point inside Mastery Connect, this takes you to your home page where previously we've talked about how to update and edit your profile. Okay, so from here though, across the top here, you're going to have your menu. You're going to click on Trackers. Now, for this one, we're going to create a new tracker by clicking on Add Tracker over here. It's going to give us some of our options here. So we're going to start by selecting our subject. Now, in order to look at some of the other features with Mastery Connect, language arts, math, there's more resources available in those areas. So we're going to stay inside language arts. Okay, we're going to look at our core. Now you've got to look at it in your Utah core. You have different cores. For some reason, it's defaulting to the 2003, 2006. Okay, we're going to click on the 2010 standards. And then we're going to select a class. We're going to go with 11th grade language arts. Okay, now in your description, this is basically your name function for it. One of the important things here, because your trackers don't necessarily delete, they'll be archived versus deleted. And so with them being archived, you'll want a naming function that helps with that. So to start with, we're going to go 2019 underscore language arts 11 underscore third period. Okay, and what that does for me is we've got our year, so when we go back and look, mostly when we're going back trying to find data for this, if you want to compare data year to year, that's where you're going to archive them, so you'll want to start with that. Okay, here you can edit the color. You can do anything you really want here. You can play within those functions with the different colors depending on what you want within them. We'll just go with the basic turquoise one here. Now, typically, you're going to leave this to import students from SIS. What this will do is when your classes are loaded within SIS, okay, once they're loaded within SIS, it will automatically update, usually during the update cycle, which is usually overnight, and it will add all the students from the selected class into your class. Now, I don't want to do that at this point, so I'm going to add students individually, which if you look when I do that, okay, when you've got it imported from SIS, you have the option to find your class. Okay, these are my previous year's SIS information there. Okay, you link it to that class, and by linking it to that class, it will find that specific class and that specific set of students. But we're not going to import students from SIS into it because it will mess with some stuff if I do that. You can also do it from a CSV file, or you can copy it from another tracker or another class. Say you created a tracker and you're tracking first semester versus second semester, you can do that. You can copy them in. But mostly you're going to import students from SIS. But in this scenario, to create this tracker for our purposes where we're doing this, we're going to add students individually. So we're going to create our tracker there. Now, it's going to default. It's going to go right back to adding students from SIS because that is the most common feature with Mastery Connect, and what's going to happen, that's the most, it goes back to it. So we could, if we had made a mistake and we needed to, we could go back and add them from SIS, but we're not going to. So we're going to come back in here and we're going to we're going to type in our students' information here. Now, we could do it by email, by parent email. We're just going to create a student ID, and we're going to create some basic ones here. Okay, we're going to go 1001, click save another. Okay, and see, once again, it goes back to this trying to add it from SIS. But if you look, it got a little bit confused here because I didn't add any names in here. So we're just going to AA and 1001, save and add another. Okay, student was successfully added. We're going to go B, and we're going to go 1002, save and add another. And then go through the process. We're going to add like 5 students here, so that when we do some other functions down the road, we can look at some basic stuff with them here, so that we have enough to get a sample size so that you can see some of the features of Mastery Connect. Okay, we're going to save and close. So now we have our 5 students created. Okay, we have our Language Arts 11 core across here. And with that created, you look, this actually defaulted and added it color-coded for us. Doesn't always do that, okay? But what it did in this case is it took and it aligned a specific strand of standards together. Now we can go into there and we can change some of those settings if we choose of how they are done. Okay, but first, some things to look at once you've got your tracker set up. If you look here on the drop down arrow, you've got some options. You can assess your standard. This is where you're going to add your assessments, and specifically where you will assess it from once your assessments are added. You can view your standard. Okay, if you look here, if you hover over it, it automatically pops it up top. Brief overview of your standard. If you click on View Standard, it will pull up your entire standard. Now, once you've got your entire standard here, you can see it. This is where you can take, if you're unwrapping your standards or breaking them down, okay, this has your standard in basically the legal jargon that all of our standards come in. Okay, it's got everything you need there. You can actually, if you want to, below here, you can customize it and you can reword your standards to where it's closer aligned to what you're going to use at the classroom level. Okay, you can also add notes here. This is where you could add your I can statements, or your students will be able to, whatever you are choosing inside your classroom to use as the identifiers, this is what you can do there. And then resource pins, this is almost like similar to Pinterest for Mastery Connect. You can actually pin different resources to it so that you can use them later. Okay, so we're just going to click out of that one for now. Okay, so same thing here. If you clicked on notes, it's going to go there. Same with your resource pins. Okay, oh, sorry. Okay, you can set it as a power standard. You can add it to a calendar so you can track when you're doing your curriculum mapping. You can say you're going to teach it from this time to this time. You can add a substandard to it. So if you're breaking them down into smaller standards, you can add that to it. Or you can remove the standard altogether if it doesn't align with a function of what you're going to be teaching. For instance, some of our strands are so big and so comprehensive, we will never get to those. And so you may, in order to assess your standards more conveniently, you may remove some standards if that's what you do inside your own core. This is your function of what you do with it. Okay, so this is the function of how we add trackers and how we can look at them and things like that. Now, like I said, you can add these, you can change these into groups. So you've got some options here, okay? This right here, If you look at this drop down menu, you can add your assessments, you can view your standards, add standards, you can individualize classroom settings for different classes, you change your privacy settings, you can email all parents, print students' reports, export and print them, you can create a curriculum map here, or you can add collaborators. If you're working, say you're working with your 3rd grade level teachers, you can add collaborators and you can all work on the same set of standards together on your curriculum map or your trackers. Okay, if you look here on the colors, okay, you have the option to create your units. If you look, it's already got them grouped for your reading literature, reading informational text. As you can see those, it default added those to the strands. Now we can create our units though, and we're going to call this one delete me, just so that we can. We can add a description here. We can change our colors. For this, we'll go with that yellow. And then say you've got certain standards that link together more closely than others. We're going to click a couple of these just randomly here. Okay. And then if you scroll down, we can save that. And then what you can see is it updated it. It actually took those standards, it took them out of the previous unit that they were grouped into, and it created our unit here. And then you still have the same options with the drop downs there, but you can see that you have the ability to change them into the units, so it aligns with how and when you're teaching and how you're assessing. So it's easier, you can customize it so it works easier for you as the teacher in order to have that function.